Good morning on Fellowship Day 176. A minor stutter there, you might have noticed. I almost forgot what day it was. Such is my perennial whining about the chaotic trials of parenthood. My voice is a little more hoarse than normal as well, but that's just another round of the nursery plague that comes home with my daughter to absolutely floor my wife and I. Anyway, I digress. That's not what I want to talk about this morning. It's a great day. We've got, it's that beautiful time of year where we get the privilege to welcome some new team members in. So that's across the patch for us, both Masters and PhD level. Some are closer to home, some are coming from further away. But in that simple reflection is what I wanted to share today, which is the theme of being as open and welcoming as possible and present in the moment with those for whom this environment is new, possibly scary, and quite far removed from where they've come. Might sound patronising to some, but I say that in parallel with my own reflections of having worked further from home during my training before getting onto a fellowship like this one, before running my own team. And whilst I was trying to move towards this sort of career, among several examples, which I may come to, principal among them, the one that jumped first in my mind, and therefore probably the one that did intimidate me the most, was living in Germany for about 4 months during the end of my PhD. That at the time for me was the longest that I had lived on my own outside of the UK ever. I'd been, I had the privilege of going on holidays growing up. I wasn't any stranger to an aeroplane or anything like that, but this was the first time that I had been apart from my fiance at the time, a lot of my friends, just completely on my own, well out of my comfort zone, certainly out of my, the area of my mother tongue, and what was for me, although relatively close to home in Germany from the UK, a completely foreign land. I landed in Germany in the early days of January 2014. It was bitter cold. It was late at night, and I made my way to a tiny little town on the outskirts of Frankfurt. Just about managed to make my way to the flat I was renting. Met the landlord, who barely spoke a word of English, and I likewise didn't speak much German, but together we broke our way through to find out where I should dump my suitcase. And then I went wandering the streets just to, find a restaurant that was open, find somewhere I could sit for a little while. And this was all happening after I had discovered that there was no internet yet set up in my little apartment. So from a broken 3G signal, I was sending intermittent messages to my fiance back home, and my mum and some friends, just letting them know I'd arrived safely. But yeah, it was a lot all at once, and a lot all on my own. Other people will brush that off, but yeah, maybe at the time, late stage PhD, I don't think I was the most mature of adults back then. Truth be told, I probably haven't properly grown up until such times as I've had to look after the two mini-me's that I call my children. But yeah, it was something that stuck with me, because what got me through was the warmth and welcoming nature of my landlord and his nephew, who spoke better English and who would come to visit to make sure I'd settled in okay. It was the warmth and welcoming nature of those who were my supervisors and mentors in the chemical company, Sanofi, that I was working with over in Germany at the time. The contact with them, their friendliness, their clarity and empathy around the situation I found myself in, and the fact that it was likely to be scary, and that they were then, in addition, very patient with me as I asked 100 questions and got used to where and when I could speak English freely and where and when I might want to be more patient, sit and listen to conversations in German that I could barely be a part of. It was a lot. But again, as I alluded to at the start, it wasn't the only time. Before that, when I was younger and even less mature, during my undergraduate degree, I had the great pleasure and privilege of spending my 4th year industrial placement down in Newcastle. So even closer to home, but at the time still quite a pivotal move for me because, first time spending so long away. That was a full year away from home. You know, even at that time, I hadn't moved out of, the house that I'd grown up in. That was the first time I had moved into my own place with flatmates. It was only after that, when I came back to Glasgow, that my girlfriend, then fiancée, then wife, we moved into our first flat together. So yeah, that time in Newcastle, though close to home, was ground shaking for me. It was a really big step forward, both in career, but also maturity. Again, what got me through that sort of thing was my manager down there. A shout out to Ewan McGuinness and to Adam Hayward and Graham Cruikshank, all of whom in their own way, they are in different positions and levels in the company, welcomed me with open arms, both on the phone before I got to Newcastle and once I landed there and got to the company site. There's so many little things in someone's smiling and welcoming nature that they couldn't possibly understand makes an absolute world of difference to someone coming in from the outside. The intimidation, feelings of being an imposter, an outsider, are can be quite quietly unnerving in several ways. Excuse me while I balls up this recording this morning to get rid of my email notifications. Sorry for the digression. What was I saying? Yeah, all those little acts of kindness that help you feel welcome, that help minimise the whirlwind of stressors and unknowns that are in your mind when you start something like that. Those small actions speak volumes, and quite clearly, in my case, and I'm sure yours, if you've done something similar, stay with you. You remember these kindnesses. And right now, as I circle round to the end of this recording and to what I opened with, it is now my turn to return that kindness that I've felt over the years. I've welcomed several students into my team over the past 4 years, and today is no different, with some of those coming similar distances, both mentally and physically, that I've had to travel in the past for the next stage of my career. So I'm very much looking forward today to being present in the moment with them, making sure that every comfort has been extended to them before we ever talk about any science or project, and make sure that they are as settled and as comfortable as they can be before we move on to matters professional. So therein is the consideration for today. Who is it that you have or will be working with that gives you the opportunity to show your most welcoming and open self? I hope your week's off to a great start too. Have a good one, and I'll see you again soon. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, head over to the website, where not only will you find the written blog versions of these podcasts, you'll find my leadership blog series, the Daily Thoughts series, and information about my book on managing the imposter phenomenon. We also have even more free resources and webinars linked to the YouTube channel. So head on over to dr-mark-reid.com. That's dr-mark with a C -reid.com. Thanks again.